Everyone, Savannah here, and today we'll be drawing a cozy little scene of a cat curled up by the window. Everything you need to follow along is linked in the description down below. That includes my free brushes, a color palette, and an outline to go along with. Let's go ahead and jump in. The first thing we're going to do is change that background color. So go ahead and click into the layers, click on that background color layer, and in the cat color palette, we're going to select this green color. Next, create a new layer, bring it below the outline layer, and we're going to grab this yellowish orange color, and we're going to outline the window here on the left. And I am using my square brush for this part. Now let's go ahead and create a new layer, and I'm going to put this below the layer we just created because I'm going to add color variation to the wall, and it'll just tuck nicely behind that window there. Now I am going to grab a darker green version of the green in the color palette, so just grab that green color, go to the disc, and make a darker selection. And still using that square brush, we're going to add a few lines here where the corner of the wall is, and then switch over to that square blend brush. Now with the square blend brush, it is a pressure sensitive brush, and so you'll see that I am very lightly adding in that darker color as I go to the right. Now I'm grabbing that original color for the background and just kind of going over it very lightly to blend this out. You can also grab some in-between colors, which I also do. To do that as you're blending these colors together, just hold your finger down on the color you want to select that's in between these two colors, and that will select it for you in your brush, and so then you can go over both those colors and it makes it blend out much nicer. Now I'm going to grab that brown and I'm going to add a little bit of that brown on the left wall here. Again, just to give it a little bit of color variation, some interest to the wall, not too much, but just a little bit of interest. And I'm going to still use that square blend brush because I don't want this wall to be brown per se. I still want a lot of that green to pop through, but I just want to give it a little bit of variation. And I also turn that outline layer off just to make sure that the wall looks right to me, that the line there is not too wobbly before I move on. So I created a new layer now. I'm working on the baseboard here. I still have that square blend brush selected. You can switch over to square brush if you want, but just know you can just press harder on that brush and it'll be similar to that square brush. Just don't press too light because then it won't fill it in, as you can see here. Now grab that lighter orange color and we're just going to add some light to this baseboard. We don't want it to just be one color because there is color variation here with the sunlight coming in from the window, and so we're just going to add some pops of lighter color here and there, add some variation. So I'm just adding some texture here to the baseboard to give it a little bit more interest, but again, I'm keeping this pretty simple because my main area that I want the viewer to focus in on is the cat itself. So that's why I'm just adding very minimal details here. Now we're going to create two new layers. The first layer that I just created, that's going to be the cat layer. That's going to be on top of all these others. The second layer is going to be the floor, which I made it kind of like a carpet textured floor. That's going to go above the wall layer. So I put it below the baseboard because I still want kind of that crisp line from the baseboard. But feel free, if you want to put it above, you definitely can. And then I grabbed this purple color in that color palette and I'm using the square brush and just filling it in here in this area on the left. I'm not filling the whole area up because there's going to be a section here, and you can see in the reference image on the left a brighter, lighter area where that sun's hitting. So I'm just filling in mostly here on the left side. Then I'm going to grab one of those yellow orange colors, fill it in here in this little corner here. Again, I have that reference image for you in the bottom left, but I'm just adding these two colors here for now, and we'll build up that carpet texture. Now the reason I picked purple is because that section is in the shadow, and usually with the shadow you have cool tones, so blues, purples, things like that. So I want to go purple with that, and then with the area where it has that light hitting, I want to go a little bit cooler, not cooler, but a little bit more light yellow orange colors. That's what we have here. Then I'm just adding in this red kind of line, just like maybe something's reflected off of the glass that's hitting from the window. I just want to again give it a little bit more of an interest to this piece, and so I grab that red. I'm using the circle blend brush for this, and I'm just doing these little marks kind of trying to make it look like carpet. So up and down is the way that I'm doing the direction here because that's going to make it look like carpet. So I'm going to grab that yellow orange color. I'm going to start adding in these up and down markings, and we'll do this with the purple as well. And I'll go over these areas a couple times just again to build up that carpet look, especially with this red here. It's very awkward looking, and so I want to build up those colors. So with this lighter section, you can grab that almost white color and that yellow orange color that we first put down and just start going over it with those brush marks like I mentioned. So just up and down will make it look like the carpet strands or whatever the threads, they'll make it look like carpet. And so just go up and down with that circle blend brush. It is pressure sensitive, so use as much pressure or as little pressure as you want for that, but it's going to help it look like carpet by using that blend brush. And the reason I'm kind of filling out this yellow area first, or this lit area first, is because as I'm going further away from it, those carpet strands will be kind of in front of that piece. And so that's why I want to start with this upper right section first and then work my way outward. So now I'm going to start adding in some blue here, and you can see a little bit better. It's hard to see what I mean with the texture on that yellow section because it's very close in color. But now you can see on this section here how I'm adding in the blue. So I'm just adding these vertical, it doesn't have to be super tall or super long sections, but I'm just adding in these vertical spots and then going over it with the purple because I don't want this section to be blue. I just wanted a little bit of a blue tone to it in some areas, and so I want mainly this color to be purple, and so that's why I kind of in this section here I grabbed a slightly lighter purple. I didn't go too light, I just grabbed a slightly lighter purple to give it that color variation. So again, just do these vertical up and down sections, just very little sketch kind of markings, and that will give it that carpet illusion. And I am brushing up and down. So what I mean by that is I'm not just swiping up on the pencil, I'm swiping up and down because that pulls in a lot of those colors together. So the red here, it pulled it down a little bit because it's grabbing that color, and I like that look. I don't want it to just be going up in one direction. And so that's what I'm using here to kind of blend these colors in together. And now that we have the main colors, I'm just going to go over these sections again, building up the different areas. So I'm going to build up the red against the yellow here, and then I'll go over it with purple in a second, because again, the yellow I'm thinking is furthest away. Then you'll see that red, then you'll see that purple. And so that's kind of the order of which I'm putting the coloring down so that it blends and makes it look a little bit more realistic to my eye, how I would imagine this to look. And I'm just trying to do light brush strokes here along the edge because I don't want too much of the purple pigment to go onto the red. I still want some of that red pigment there, but I just wanted to go lightly so we still have red pulling through. And then I'm going to go over the blue section because again, I don't want too much blue. I don't want this carpet to read blue. I just wanted a little bit color variation there where the cat's napping. Now we're going to work on that cat layer. So that's that very top layer that I mentioned. I'm actually going to start with this really dark yellow green color. I'm going to trace and fill in the shape of the cat hair. It will make sense in a second why I did it this way. Trust me, trust the process, but we're going to start with this dark green color, trace and fill in the shape of the cat, and then I'll show you how we build up the texture on the cat. And originally I didn't fully fill in the ears because I think I was going to do slightly different process for that, but I did end up filling those in as well. So feel free to do that if you haven't, if you're following exactly how I'm doing it. But if you have, then great, nothing need change. But if you haven't, feel free to fill those in now. Now, normally I tell you to alpha lock this layer, but we want to put hair on this cat, and if you alpha lock, it's not going to give it that hair texture, especially when we're working around the edges. So We're going to add the hair. We're going to use that circle blend brush. I'm starting with this yellow orange. It's a darker color here, but this yellow orange color, and same technique as we did with the carpet. I'm just adding in these short little brush strokes here, but just be mindful of the curvature of the cat. So it's not going to be up and down like we did with the carpet. We're going to follow the curvature of the cat. So for instance, this is their leg kind of curled up next to them. So I'm following the shape of that leg here. Same with the back of the hair. I'm just following the shape of the cat here. Now, the reason I did the darker color on the bottom is because that already gives us the shadows that we would want for this cat. And then also, as you'll see when I turn the alpha lock layer, or excuse me, the outline layer off, you'll see that in the corner, it kind of gives a little bit of definition between the head, between the leg, and you'll see that in the bottom left in that reference image that I have of the final product, what I mean by that. And so that's why I did not start with a lighter color, because we would have had to add those in, and it would have been a little bit harder to add those in later than if we started with the darker color. Now we just need to brighten it up. So I'm just adding in this color here. We're going to add in a lot of other tones, as you can tell from the image in the bottom left, but start with this color, add these brush strokes, again being mindful of how the hair falls and follows the shape of the cat. And then we'll add in some more color variations, but we're starting with this color first. And we're not doing this color on the entire cat because there's going to be lighter sections, there could be darker sections in the shadow. So mainly I'm adding it to the tail, the head, and then the leg here. We're going to go lighter on top, and we will pull in some of this color as well. But for now, I'm just sticking with these areas here, and we'll keep building up. And always turn that outline layer off as we're doing these sections so that you can see how it's starting to shape. If you need to tweak anything, it's best to do that as you're going along, and then turning that off at the end and realizing there's a big section that you need to fix. Now I'm grabbing that lighter color here. I'm going to add it to the top. Again, this is kind of where that light is hitting for the cat. So I'm going to add it to the top of the cat here. I'm going to add some parts to the top of the head, to the ears. So we're going to add the lighter color here. Everything to the left now of what we've just kind of added in is going to be darker, so don't worry about adding in any of the light here. We're just going to stick mostly the lighter shades to the right side here now as we build this up. And again, make sure you're following the shape of the cat here. So this is kind of where their leg is. So I'm just trying to make sure I follow that shape here. And this is looking a much lighter than what it's going to be. Again, we're going to be blending out these colors, so it's not going to be this stark contrast. It will be a gradual change between these colors. And then around the ears, you just want to turn that brush size down because we're just doing a very thin section here. We are going to add an inner ear kind of part here, a little bit more orange. We'll do that on a separate layer. I'll show you what I do for that. But for now, we're just going to do the outer kind of hair area here of the ear. Now I did grab a medium color that's between this bright color and the darker yellow orange that we used for the first part here of the hair, and I'm just going to use that color to blend these two sections out a little bit so it's not as much of a stark contrast. And feel free to play with the brush size. I went a little bit larger on the brush size because I wanted to fill more space quickly. The smaller the brush size, the more realistic it might look with the hair texture, but I wanted to fill it in a little bit faster. I didn't want to spend, too much time doing the hair, but feel free to do that if you want it to look even more realistic. This, I think, still looks pretty good. It still gives you that illusion that it is a cat, and so I'm happy with how the brush size is. But again, if you want to go smaller, you can definitely go smaller. Now I'm just going to keep picking up these colors a little bit, blending in the different tones, and then really shaping the shape of the cat here. Again, we'll add in shadows and things like that on the left side with some of the colors that we have in the color palette, but I'm just kind of building up this section first. Now I am bringing more of that darker yellow orange down here because we kind of have this big gap and I don't want so much black there. But with that, I'm going to go back to the darker color and just bring in a little bit of it to look like hair texture instead of just this black line. So I'm kind of doing that around the rest of the section here to give it more like it's hair, not just a black line. And now on this left part here that we haven't touched, I'm going to go more blue toned. It's in the shadow. Like I mentioned earlier, you can go purple tone, you can go blue tone, really any cool tone for shadows. It makes it look a little bit more realistic because shadows are typically cool toned. And so I went blue on the cat just to contrast a little bit more from the carpet. And I'm just going to do that same technique that we've been doing on the rest of the body, just adding in these hairs and then blending it in between the tail and the upper body section. So adding in those blues, we will add in some more like a teal kind of blue similar to the carpet, and then we'll add in that red as well. But for now, I'm just adding in the blues. And I'm adding a little bit more darker tones to the bottom as well to make that really defined as this is the darkest point because it's the furthest away from the light. And now I'm going to grab that blue-green color, that lighter color, and I'm going to add that to the top part of the shadow layer here. As you go further towards the bottom of the cat, it's going to go darker. So that's why I have this lighter color towards the top. And then we kind of have that mid-tone blue color and then that darker color on the bottom because that's the furthest away from that light source. And I am just going to blend a little bit of this line here so it's not so stark because we are still going to add that red in. So I didn't want to be as much of a stark contrast. I'm going to start with this pinkish color first, and I'm going to use that kind of as a marking of where the line's going to go and as also an undertone for the red. So I'm going along the edge here of where that darker color and that lighter color is hitting on the cat and using that to kind of blend those two tones together. And now we're just going to go over that with the dark red. So I have a little bit of the pink still peeking through on the edges here. You can cover it fully with the red if you want, but I'm just going to have a little bit of pink and then I'm going to go back over with the blue colors that we use. So I'm going to grab that cyan blue to blend this section out a little bit more and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Now grab that yellow orange, the lighter yellow orange color and blend it out on the other side here. And I did lighten up a little bit around the face here, just a smidgen, not too much, but I want it a little bit lighter. And now I'm going to create a new layer and we'll work on the eye. So grab that red orange color. We're going to do the eyes and the ears here. So we're going to fill in the shape of the ear here. There is hair that I want to go above the inner part of that ear. So I'm going to add another layer on top of this here in a second. But for now, just go ahead and fill the shape of the ears. And then like I mentioned, we'll also work on the eyes and the mouth as well. And don't worry about it looking so contrasty against the hair. Like I mentioned, I'll show you what I do to kind of blend it in better. And I'm just using that same color for now that we used for the ears, for the eyes and the nose. And I have that outline layer on so I know where to kind of place it. Then once I fill that in, I noticed I kind of wanted to change the shape of the cat's face a little bit. So I'm going to go down to that layer, modify the shape there, and then we'll keep building up this section here. So I'm grabbing that um, darker yellow orange color and I'm going to bring that face down a little bit here because it's just looking a little too scrunched, a little too short for my liking. And then I'm also going to update the top part here above where the eye is just to kind of flow better with where I place that eye. And then I'm going to lighten up a little bit on the side here of the face of the cat because that's kind of where that light would be hitting. So I just want to brighten it up just a little bit. Now create a new layer above the inner ear part that we added, and this is how we're going to get around having the hair. So I'm just dragging up that same white color that we had that we used for on the fur layer. I'm using that to drag the color up into over that ear area because that's what's going to make it look a little bit more natural. So we can't really do that on the hair layer because that's underneath of the inner ear part, but if we create a new layer on top, we can start building out that section. So that's what I'm doing here to make them blend in a little bit more, make it look a little bit more natural. And I'm doing this around the nose as well because there's a lot of hairs. It's not going to be these very stark contrasting lines. It's going to blend a little bit more in with that hair. So that's why I'm kind of tweaking around these areas a little bit. And now I do want to darken the eyes a little bit, so I'm going to pop over to that layer where the inner ear and the eyes are. I'm going to grab this dark red orange color, and because we have that circle blend brush, I'm just going to go over the section with this dark red orange color, and then I'm going to go back over it with that original orange color that we used because I just want it a little bit darker. I don't want it to be that dark red orange, but I want it to be a little bit darker than the pinkish orange that we have going on already. And I also took the time to thicken the lines because I'm going to actually erase the lines instead of just drawing them thin because it just didn't look as natural to me. So I'm going to switch over to the erase tool. I'm using the soft brush for this. This is a Procreate standard brush. I'm just very lightly erasing the eyes and it's looking much more natural to me now. It's not looking like just a straight line that we drew. It looks a little bit more soft and more blended, and I'm going to do that around the nose as well. And now I'm going to bring that red orange color out a little bit more on the ear here. I think I just cut it off a little bit too soon. So I'm going to bring it out a little bit more and then we'll add some details here. And now on that hair layer we put above the inner ear layer, I'm just going to add in some more hair around the outer part here of this ear to make it look a little bit more natural because it looks kind of like a line. There's no really hair on it. So that's what I'm just going to do on both of these ears, just make it look a little bit more blended in with that hair. Now let's go ahead and set the inner ear to alpha lock. We're going to add a little bit of color variation. So grab that yellow color next to that red orange, grab the circle blend brush, and we're just going to add a little bit of yellow to the inside just from that glow from the sun. And so I just want to give a little bit of variation. The left ear is more in the sun, the right ear is a little bit more in the shade. And so just keep that in mind as you're adding in these colors. I made the left ear a little bit brighter and the right ear not as bright. Now we're going to create a new layer and we're going to do the shadow on the carpet where the cat is kind of laying. So I grabbed that purple color, the same one that we used for the carpet. I picked purple because again, cool tones are used for shadows. And so I wanted the purple tone. You could have used one of the blues if you wanted to as well. But make sure that that layer is above the carpet layer, but below the baseboard layer. And I set it to clipping mask. It doesn't necessarily matter if it's set to clipping mask or not because it's not really going outside the lines. It's just a habit that I have. And so I'm just going to add in the shadow here and then we're going to set its blend mode to multiply and bring that opacity down. Then I did a Gaussian blur on it because I wanted it to be a little bit more of a softer shadow there. And now I'm going to do the same thing but to the baseboard layer. So I added a new layer. I set it to clipping mask to the baseboard layer. And with that purple, I'm just adding in some spots where the shadow would be. Set that blend mode to multiply, turn the opacity down to 50-ish%, and then do a Gaussian blur on it. Now, one of the final things to do is add whiskers to the cat, and you can do it on the top layer here where the fur is. I'm grabbing the circle blend brush, I'm grabbing that light yellow white color, and I'm just adding the whiskers here. And with that, we are done with our drawing. Thanks for sketching along with me today. I hope this cozy little cat nap helped you unwind. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more relaxing tutorials, and let me know in the comments what peaceful scene you'd like to draw next.